everyone, it's Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter, and today I'm here with a card project that I created for the Scrapbook Expo blog. Paige over at Scrapbook Expo asked me to create a card that was in my signature style. So you're going to see what I consider to be my signature style here. And I am of course starting out with some gold glitter cardstock, and I used my precision base plate there to cut out this "You Rock" sentiment. This is from the Essentials by Ellen Line. And I'm going to finish out this sentiment with a Dymo label maker label here, a little embossed label that says "Totally." So overall, my sentiment will say "You totally rock." Now, because this is in my signature style, there were a few things I wanted to include, and watercolor was one of them. So I'm going to take this circle die from We Are Memory Keepers, and I've set up my Sizzix Big Shot like I would use a embossing folder. But instead of the embossing folder, I am going to place down this silicone mat from Spellbinders, and then my watercolor paper and my die with the blade side down, and I'm going to run that through, and it creates a little debossed circle on the front of my card. Now I wanted to create a guide for my watercolor paper, because I want to do it in a circular area, but I didn't want to create a pencil line because I wasn't sure if I would accidentally go over it and then I wouldn't be able to erase the pencil. So this just seemed like a cool way to make a guide without having to erase it, and it adds a fun little detail to the card as well. So I've added some clean water within that circle, and now I am coming in with a few of the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers here. I have them in turquoise green, light blue, and I believe yellow green. I have them all listed in the description at YouTube as well as over at my blog. And I am going to go ahead and use those on the wet paper. Now, because these have a real brush tip and not a felt tip, you can take these to wet paper and it won't hurt them at all. So I started out with the turquoise green, and I kind of blended that out. And now I'm using the light blue and going around the edge. I didn't want to get the color too intense in some areas. And once I've got some of that color laid down, then I can come back in with my paintbrush and some water and just kind of blend those out. And I'm going to continue this process of adding color, blending it out, and adding color and blending it out. Now, I really do consider lately, when I look back at my blog, I have been using a lot of watercolor, so that's why I kind of wanted to add some watercolor to this card project as well. And you're going to see me add some of that pattern acetate that I've been loving, as well as some vellum too. So now I'm kind of mixing in these blues and greens. I have this yellow green here, and it is such a fun and bright color. I just love that. And then I'm going to tone it down just a little bit with that turquoise green and then blend that all out. Now, I totally was not intending to do this, but when I looked at this when it was done, it kind of reminded me of the earth or a globe or something. Do you kind of see it there? We have the ocean, and then the green is the land part. I don't know. I don't know if you see it, but I totally do. And so that's what I ended up with there. And I'm going to just set that aside to let it dry. And I am going to take this pattern acetate and I am going to cut it with that same size circle die. So this pattern acetate is from We Are Memory Keepers. It's from the Clearly Bold collection. It is the 12 by 12 acetate. This has a little bit larger scale pattern than the 6 by 6. And as long as I'm doing some die cutting, I'm going to go ahead and cut that You Rock die again, but this time I'm cutting it out of some Essentials by Ellen vellum. So now I have all the pieces kind of here, and that wasn't quite dry enough for me to continue on with, so I went ahead and hit that watercolor with my heat tool. And now I'm going to stack up this glitter and vellum piece to create kind of a shadow effect. And I've recently rediscovered my Zig two-way glue pen, and I've really been enjoying it. It kind of sets up pretty quickly, so for little things like this, it works out really well. So I'm just attaching that glitter piece to the vellum piece, and I just kind of offset it just slightly so that it creates this really cool kind of halo shadow effect on these dies. And I've been doing this in a few of my projects lately, and it's just something that I like right now. So something for you to try. Now I'm going to add a little foam adhesive to the back of my Totally label sentiment here. And then I'm going to add these little circle foam adhesives right behind the polka dots that are on my acetate. Now I found that these polka dots hide the foam tape pretty well, but you do want to make sure that you kind of concentrate it in the area where you're going to have other elements on top of it. So I've tried to keep my foam adhesive in the part of the circle that will be kind of disguised by the sentiment. And when I go to place this acetate on here, I am going to place the polka dots to where they're at an angle rather than going straight up and down or straight side to side. And I will just press that down when I get it all positioned where I want to. Then I just flipped it over and I trimmed off the rest of that circle using my scissors. And now I am going to start attaching the sentiment to the actual acetate. Now I use some Zig two-way glue pen again here. I quite honestly am not sure if this will hold up, so I may go back and squirt some of the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish behind this before I kind of send it in the mail, just to make sure that it's going to stay really well adhered. Now, while that sets up, I can kind of just set a heavy block over that to let it set up, and then I'm going to go in and attach my Totally sentiment. I decided right here, right before I put it down, that I wanted to go ahead and create a banner end in that, so I just used my scissors to trim out that banner end. Super easy to do. I know I do this a lot, but once again, I'm trying to stick to my signature style here, so I don't know. When we get done with this card, you can tell me if it's my signature style or not. So I'm getting that all positioned, and I'm just using my grid mat to make sure that that's all straight. And then I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of that rock as well. Would you not love to have a rock this big on your finger? I'm not going to lie. If my husband came home with a diamond this big and placed it on my finger, I would not be mad. So I'm going to position that there under the Totally part, and then I will work on my card base. Now, my card base is made from some Nina 110-pound solar white cardstock. I've cut it to 4 1/4 by 11, and I'm just scoring it at 5 1/2 using my Teflon bone folder, and I'll reinforce that score line really well there with my Teflon bone folder. And scoring it really helps to keep the cardstock from cracking. When you're using a thick cardstock like this, I really do recommend scoring to keep that cardstock from cracking. So now I just have a few pieces of random cardstock and glitter cardstock and some pattern paper that I'm adding to the edge of the card as well, and I'm just doing that with a little tape runner adhesive. And this black and white not cardstock, but this black and white pattern paper is from a Jen Hadfield pattern paper pad, 6x6 pattern paper pad. And once I get those all adhered to the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and use my large scissors to trim that off. Now, after watching Jennifer McGuire's video on the foam adhesive versus fun foam, I am becoming a true believer in using this fun foam for large pieces on my card. So I've gone ahead and cut a piece of fun foam that's just slightly smaller than my card front, and I've attached some score tape to both the front and the back of that, and that gives me a nice secure hold. And I've attached the foam to the back of the card front, and then I'm going to attach that entire piece to my card base as well. And I'm just kind of using my work surface here to make sure that all gets on there straight. And then I wanted to round a corner, and I thought it was going to be the left one, but when I put it up there, it didn't feel right, so I went ahead and rounded that lower right-hand corner. And then I'm going to add just a little bit more sparkle to this card because I guess the gold glitter wasn't sparkly enough with some sparkling clear sequins. And I really like these sequins because they really just do go with anything, and they kind of add a really nice finishing touch. Now, to finish off my sentiment, I decided that it needed to be just a little bit more wow than the gold glitter cardstock on its own. So I added a layer of glossy accents over that gold glitter cardstock. And that completes my card for today. Once again, this card was created for the Scrapbook Expo blog, and you can find a link to that blog over on my blog. And I do have a profile up there, as well as I'm sharing some of my favorite projects over there. As always, I have links to all the products used in this project at my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com, as well as in the description at YouTube. Thanks for stopping by today. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.